Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll show you how I painted my NECRON warrior with some quick and easy techniques to a tabletop ready standard. And here's the NECRON warrior that we'll be painting in this video, and I use mostly contrast paints, some shades and some base paints, and also some Vallejo earth texture. And when I'm painting this model, I painted all 10 of the NECRON warriors and also 3 of the NECRON scarabs as well. So I find that's the best way to get these done nice and quickly. But I've done a separate video for the NECRON scarabs if you'd like to check that out. Okay, here we go. Let's get started. And this is the NECRON warrior, all base painted with a metallic spray. And I didn't use a game brand here. I used this spray paint. It's a gloss paint, and I found it in a local supermarket in the UK called Aldi, and I picked it up for £3.99. Now for a 400ml can of spray paint, that's a really good price. There is a downside: it takes quite a while to dry, and I find I have to leave it about 36 to 48 hours before I paint. But for £3.99, you can't go wrong with this. I thought it would be a good idea to try out this starter brush from Citadel in this video, and you'll find this in sets like the Warhammer 40,000 paints and tools, and also in the specific set for the NECRONs as well. So I thought these are like perfect beginner models to paint. So if you've never painted before, or you're not really interested in painting too much, these could be a great army to build, and you can get these paint sets pretty cheap as well. So let's see how we get on with this starter brush, and just to give you an idea of the size, here it is up against a small layer brush. Right, now let's start the painting with some contrast warp lightning. This is a great green colour, and I'm going to use this for all the sections of the weapon that are green. And the images I'm pretty much using are from the Imperium magazine. I'm going to change it a little bit because I want to go for a different look, more of like a not so much grimdark, but more of a weathered, battle hardened look. So I'm not too worried about these being crisp and shiny. We'll certainly dirty them up later on. So I'm just taking my time going in all these fine areas with this paint. I'm not flooding it with paint. I haven't got too much on the brush because there's not a lot of surface area here to cover. So I'm just going in to the paint pot, and then I'm wiping away a lot of the paint on the lid as I twist the brush through the paint. So there we are, just filling that little bit in the gun. Then also this little kind of pipe or wire here, that's going to get a nice coat of green as well. And I'm just moving the model to make it nice and easy rather than moving myself around the model. I've got my arms braced on the table, so I've got lots of control. And now onto the eyes, and I hate doing these little details, but I find if I put the model and the holder on the table, it's nice and steady, and then I can really take my time going in, putting a little dot in there, and again moving that model and getting into a position where I'm comfortable. And this looks a bit awkward, but for me this is quite a comfortable position to get detailed work like this done. So just getting it in there, again not flooding it with paint. And there you can see that's all the green done. Here's a different model now, it just shows a bit of damage on the head, so you can see I painted that green as well just to show that coming through. And I thought I'd try one out with the Orc Skin, the new speed paint by Army Painter. And this is very close to this Warp Lightning contrast paint in colour. So you can see there, up against it, there's not much difference. But back to our model, there's these little cables coming down on some of the NECRONs. So give that a little coat of the green as well. And don't forget to go around the back and make sure you cover all the areas. Then it's time for some contrast Giliman Flesh, and this is going to go over all the kind of metal panels, and this is a great colour if you want to go for like a bronze looking metal. And I'm not trying to be super precise with this. You can see I'm putting it on, like trying to start and end my brush strokes where I want most of the paint to build up, and then just pushing and pulling that paint around on the model. I'm trying to avoid the edges. I'm not trying to go over those because I want some of that silver to come through. I almost want this to be patchy, and I want it to look like a kind of different kind of metal. I don't want it to be a solid metal panel. I want it to look like some weird kind of futuristic alloy, and so I think this will give us a nice effect. But the colour's going to work really nice with the desert base that I want to do later on as well, because I really want to tie the miniature to the kind of terrain as well, so I really want that to come through. So I'm just going over, picking out these main panels, the arms, the legs, and all over that hand as well. I'm not going to paint the head in this colour because I don't want that to be as kind of bronze. I want that to be a more silver look. So I'm going over these chest plates and putting a bit more paint on when there's more surface area and more recesses to fill. Then I take some contrast Aggaros dunes And I'm doing this while that Gilliman Flesh is still wet as well. And I'm just going to go over this little piece in the centre and just give that a nice coat. You can be quite generous with Aggaros dunes. It's not as rich as some of the other paints, so you can put quite a bit on there and it's not going to dry really vibrant. And then I'm also going to use that while it's on the brush in this section of the gun here as well, just to break it up a little bit. It's going to be quite subtle, this colour difference, but I think it works on the piece. Next up, we've got the contrast black Templar, and this is going to be for the gun, so I'm just going to paint in the handle, and there's a black section around that gold we just painted. So just taking my time, going in there, giving it a nice coat. This is a great paint. It really does get in those recesses nicely for some shadow, but it leaves the raised areas nice and highlighted. So one coat of this is all we're going to need. And the great thing about using this gloss primer is it really does come through. So you almost get a cheeky highlight for free without having to worry about going back. And I think that brightness, that glossiness really suits the Necrons. And I've also used it for my Grey Knights, where there'll be a video coming really soon for that, where you can see those painted as well. And yeah, it's a great paint. I was really happy to find it. I bought loads of them. I got like 10 while they were there. So there's still some in stock. So if it's any near you, I would definitely recommend picking up some of that. So I'm continuing here anyway with the black, just taking my time. Again, I'm not worrying about going right up to the edge when I'm doing this. Let some of that metal come through. It looks almost like scratched and worn. And then I'm just covering this pipe, turning the model, making it nice and easy for myself. So I've got lots of control all the way through. Then I take some Null Oil Shade, and this is going to go on all the areas of the gun here that I haven't painted with any other colours, and that's just going to dirty it up a bit, bring out some of the detail. It's going to go into the recesses and show off all the texture that we can see. So just going in there. If I go a little bit over that black I've painted, it doesn't matter, no big deal at all. Then I take some Agrax Earthshade, and with this I'm going to go over every part of the model I haven't painted yet. Now on the head here, I'm being careful not to go in the eye sockets because I don't want to dirty that green up, but I'm using the texture of like the mouth and the head here just to almost wipe the paint off my brush. You can see I'll just go in and almost with the side of the brush just scrape it along the texture of the model, and that will take the paint off, and that paint will want to go into those recesses. This is where the shades are really good. They really want to go in those recesses, and it completely transforms the model. You can see here all that texture's coming through now. We're really starting to see all the different components of the Necron, and so it's really brings it to life now at this stage. And again, if this little bits go over the pieces we've painted with the Gilliman Flesh, it really doesn't matter. For this effect and for this standard, the time and effort we're putting in, I think this gets a good finish to it. Right, now it's time to do some Basin, and here's some Earth Texture Acrylic by Vallejo, and this stuff's awesome. I did a video on it, which you can check out on the channel, and I get this little Citadel paddle tool that scrapes up a bit, so I use the big piece first, get a big dollop there, carefully put it on, and I spin it around, and I use the more pointy end, the smaller end of the paddle, just to spread that around, being careful when I get to the feet. It doesn't matter if a little bit works up towards those feet and goes on the off foot a little bit, because you're going to get some dust and sand coming from the terrain, and it's almost going to bring it all together. So just keep going with that, spreading it around, take your time. This dries like within a few hours, sometimes overnight if it's thick, and so you've got loads of time to work with this. So you can really take your time. See how I'm just pushing it towards the feet there, and there we go, all done. Little wipe around the edge, and then that's going to be great. And I leave these dry overnight just so they're completely solid. Then, once that's dry, I take some contrast Giliman Flesh, and I'm going to give one coat all over this. Now, this would be better with a bigger brush, but I'm determined just to use the starter brush here for this piece, so I'm using it for every part, but a bigger brush would get this done a lot quicker. And when I did all the other 9 models, I did use a bigger brush for those, but just to show you, you can use this one, this fine. And here's a difference between the 2 bases with that Gilliman Flesh. The one on the right's got it, and the one on the left hasn't. And you can see it really changes the colour, and it gives it a nice desert look. Then once that's completely dry, I took some base Rakarth Flesh, and we're going to use that to dry brush over the base. So I thought I'd show you the dry brushes I use, and just to give you an idea, that big one is obviously too big for this. This is the Citadel dry brush, which is quite thin and a flat brush, but I've got these very vegan makeup brushes, which are my go-to ones. This one's quite big, really soft bristles, great for terrain, but this one's good for these more detailed pieces because it's a little bit thinner, and then you've got a little pointy bit almost on the end that you can really get in and avoid parts of the model. So I'm going to use this one for this base. So just make sure those bristles are nice and soft, run it on my hand, and then I'm going to dip it into the paint, not put too much on, I'll just show you how much so you can have a look, and then I work that into some kitchen towel, really push it into those bristles, spin it round, and I usually go back to the pot, get a little bit more, about the same amount, and then just work it in, and then I'll wipe that on the kitchen towel until most of it's come off and the brush is nice and dry. And then once I've done that and I'm happy, I'll go to the model and just be really careful at first, not so too much paint comes off the brush. And once I'm happy with how much is coming off, then I can be a bit faster, a bit more like rougher with it, and really cover the ground. So this is quite a fast process, but it makes a huge difference to the piece. And you can see now, look at the difference there, it looks great. So yeah, that's really brought out all that texture. We've still got the nice dark rich like shadow bit coming from that Gilliman Flesh that we put on. So I think using this combo works really nicely, and so this has come out really well, and I've got a nice desert look now, which is exactly what I wanted for my Necrons, who are going to go up against my Space Marines that I'm building as part of this Imperium magazine collection in a big desert battle. So can't wait to get all of these painted up and ready to go. So there we are. So that's how it's going to look once you've dry brushed it, and then that's pretty much it all done. But if you look at it compared to this one, which is just that Vallejo paste with a dry brush and no Gilliman Flesh, you get two very different looks. The one on the right is more like a beach, when the one on the left is more like a Martian type of desert. Then I take some beige brown, 0.875 from Vallejo, and this matches the colour of that paste. I pop a bit of blue tack on the end of my brush, and then that's going to hold the base and act like a little turntable. And now we can paint the rim really easily. Again, a bigger brush would be perfect here, but I'm going to stick with the starter brush just to show you that you don't need to get loads of brushes. You can get one brush to start with, and then just give that a nice coat. You might want to do 2 coats all over, but just keep going with it until you're finished, and then that's the final part of the model complete. And here he is, the NECRON warrior, all ready for battle. I'm really happy how it turned out. Nice, quick, easy techniques. Didn't take long at all to get all 10 and those scarabs painted up. And you can see how that patchy metal really makes him look like he's been through it. He's seen some things, and he's certainly had some battle damage there. And so I think this ties in nicely with the base. You might want to do it grey. I think these would look awesome with a grey base, and you'd have more of a contrast between the colour, because you can see here, this is really almost deserty colour. But for me, I wanted to bring that together and kind of use that terrain and the colour of the model to make it look like they belong together. Here's a close-up so you can see the eyes, and from that contrast paint you do get a bit of a glow, so I think the green comes out really nice in the eyes and also on the weapon. And so here's the lineup of all 10 that I painted at the same time, and those scarabs as well. So definitely recommend doing this in batches, especially with this tabletop ready style. You can get them done a lot quicker. But check out the other video if you'd like to see the NECRON scarabs. They're probably the easiest models I've ever painted, and great fun. And if you want to pick up some of these models for yourself, I can highly recommend this Recruit Edition or the Imperium magazine. This Recruit Edition is great. You get all these models included, a board, some basic rules, dice, measuring sticks, everything to start playing the game. I think it's great value, even at £32.50. But head over to Wayland Games, you can get it for £25.84 when they've got it in stock, and also Element Games for £27.62. Great value. I'll put some affiliate links in the description below where you can pick those up at a discount, and you also support the channel as I get a small commission. So if you do decide to do that, I really appreciate it, and thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the video, and this gave you an idea of how you could quickly and easily paint your Necrons to a tabletop ready standard with mostly contrast paints, a little bit of dry brushing. And I think these are a great army. If you've never painted before, or you're not really interested in painting then too much, then these would be perfect. They're so easy to paint, great fun. You can be a little bit messy with it and it doesn't matter, it almost adds to the effect. So that's our NECRON warrior, and look out for more videos both for them and other models from Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Warcry and Kill Team. I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make these daily videos possible, and if you're interested in joining the community, it'd be awesome to see you there, and I'll put a link for that in the description down below. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.